You know, a mentor of mine once told me that he with the strongest belief wins. So I am looking at a room full of winners. Way to go, everybody. If you don't have your belief yet, you're not listening. So take the cotton out of your ears, because what you've heard the last couple of days is amazing. The product, the company, the leaders that we get to work with, your belief should be sky high right now. However, as you've heard referred to earlier in the conference, sometimes people will go away from these conferences sky high in emotion, and they go home and it drops and they don't know what to do from there. And then they come back to the next event, perhaps at the same level they left the last one. So I've been really reflecting the last couple of weeks on what I want to talk to you about, and several things have played into this, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But I identified 3 things that I think might be key in helping you to go home and actually implement some of the things that you've learned this weekend. The first that you need is belief. We've talked about that. You've heard it. It's there. You're all in, right? Okay, so that one's done. The second one is you need to know what to do next, and you're getting an earful of that today. You're going to hear more after lunch, and by the time we get done with this day, if you don't know what to do, you'll know what to do. You're going to hear it all today. The third thing is you need to know why you're doing this, but on a deeper level, perhaps, than you've thought about it before. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you about finding your why, but taking it to a deeper level. I actually call it a point of passion. And your point of passion is going to be something that is only specific to you, and it's something that you may not know right now. And if you don't know what it is, my challenge to you is by the end of today, or the end of this weekend, please identify your point of passion. Your point of passion is your why, at which point you may start to get emotional. If you're like me, you'll probably tear up. My apologies, I brought Kleenex in case I do. But your point of passion will be that anchor for you as you go out and talk to people about this, that as you reach objections or you reach obstacles. Colt talked about that a little bit, and I hope that you've felt the passion of each of the leaders that have been up here today. They all have reached their point of passion, and I hope it's come across in the words that they've said. I've felt it from each one of them. I want to empower you to also have that point of passion within yourself. So for just a few minutes, I want to take you back. A lot of you have heard our story from Eric as he goes around the country. I'm sure he's spoken in a lot of your homes. But I want to take you back a little bit further, back to about the year 2000, and talk about a 5-year period that we had that led up to the story that he tells. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I don't have a lot of time. But just to sum it up, this was kind of a 4-letter word period of time for us. And the word was the L word. You may not know what the L word is. The word is lack. And it seemed like every time we'd start to get ahead, we'd get pushed 10 steps back. During this period of time, we went through 9 months where Eric didn't work. We were self-employed. When you're self-employed and you don't work, how much money comes in? We had a brand new home. We had our whole lives ahead of us. It was our first home. We just built it. We were really excited. We had the whole world at our feet. And my husband was injured so severely that he did not work for 9 months, underwent 11 procedures to try and fix his back, relocate his hips, and get him back to where he could function. That started a period of time for us where we were in a lot of medical debt to the tune of over $100,000. We built back as he started to regain his health, and we decided to start a couple of additional businesses, so hopefully we could get on top. We ran into all sorts of obstacles with those, from employees that didn't want to show up or didn't want to do their job. We had days where they would forget to put oil in the machinery, and we'd be out $2,000 worth of machinery that would seize up. We had days where they would make other mistakes. We had a day where they were driving to an appointment and the car in front of them stopped suddenly, and they had several 100 pounds of equipment in the back of the truck and couldn't stop in time, so caused a chain reaction, and we were sued. We weren't there. We got left holding the bag. Things happen. And during this time, we ended up kind of into a cycle, and I remember a day my mom actually called me up and said, okay, what happened today? And I said, why do you ask? And she said, well, it's been 2 weeks since the last one. And she said, every 2 weeks somebody's in the hospital. Eric cut off part of a finger during that time. We had a son that was born with a birth defect and almost died. We had major thing after major thing. The engine on my vehicle went out twice. So a lot of that time I was without a car. It seemed like every 2 weeks there was something major, and so she called and said, what happened this week? And I told her, because we had another major one. But over the next few days, I started to realize that maybe I was part of the problem. And I realized that with all the positive thinking books that I've read and all the positive mental attitude seminars that I'd been to, I'd gotten off track. And I had forgotten to focus on the positive and to focus on where I wanted to be instead of where I was at. And so unbeknownst to Eric, I made a mental decision one day and said, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to focus on the bills that are a mile high on my desk. I'm not going to focus on the things that are happening around me. I'm going to focus on where I want to be. And it was really, really hard because we had had all these years of things, and so I was trying to make a comeback from a place that was pretty far back. And I share this with you because maybe something will resonate with somewhere that you're at. I know a lot of you have had major, major obstacles in getting here today, and I commend you for being here. Because any one of the excuses that I heard could have been an excuse that kept you home, but you're here. So, my congratulations to you. I started to focus on where I wanted to be, and I decided I needed a phrase that would be my war cry. I love that corporate, you do that every Tuesday. It's very powerful to have something that you can rally around. And my phrase was health, wealth, prosperity, now. All things that I wanted, all things that were part of that lack in our life right then. And every time I would start to see myself focusing on a challenge, or I'd open up a bill, or I'd have something that would come to my attention that would start to take me down that negative road, I would stop and I would mentally think, health, wealth, prosperity now. And when Eric's back would hurt him and I would be giving him massages, I would be thinking every time I'd push on his back, health, wealth, prosperity now, and I'd just be trying to push it into him too. I remember driving down the road one day and just screaming at the top of my voice, sitting in my car, and I'm sure everybody around me thought I was absolutely crazy. Health, wealth, prosperity now, and I wanted it right now. I was so tired of being tired and being in lack. And I just kept focusing and focusing on where I wanted to be. And I know there are several of you in this room. You'll probably know who you are because we've talked about this very thing. You're at that point of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. My challenge to you is stop focusing on the sick and tired and focus on what you want. This weekend you've been given a vehicle that will take you wherever you want to go. Wherever you want to go. So I'm also going to share with you a little something that I drew. I actually am an artist in my part-time. Switch mics. I'm an artist sometimes, but this day I wasn't feeling very artistic. I was actually quite angry. So I'm going to share with you what I drew. I drew it on a little yellow sticky note, and I stuck it everywhere I could think of to stick it. And it looked like this. Beautifully artistic. For me, this was the mountain that I was climbing. And this was the obstacle that I was pushing. And at this point, we had found a network marketing company that Marcel kindly called us about, and I signed up that day on the phone. Marcel, where are you? My gratitude to you, because it gave me something to focus on. I signed up that day when Eric wouldn't answer the phone. And I started building that business because I wanted more, and I wanted more for him. He was working 17-hour days. We never saw him, and he didn't know my children, and he wanted to. And he wanted a life, and I wanted a life with him. So I said, okay, ladies, you can do this. If your husbands aren't on board yet, you can do this. Guys, if your husband or your wives aren't on board yet, you can do this. It's great to work as a team, but if you're not yet, it's okay. So this was me. And I drew my little lovely stick figure here, and I pictured myself pushing this boulder. If you've got a huge boulder to push up a mountain, how hard is it to get started? That's the hardest thing you will ever do. But once you get started, it becomes just a little bit easier. And you're moving this huge boulder up the mountain, and it's very heavy and very difficult. What happens if you stop? You get smashed. And the boulder goes to the bottom of the mountain, and you have to start all over again. So my thought process was, if I'm pushing this boulder all by myself, Marcel lived, 1,000 miles away? 11 hours. I had nobody in the state to do the business with me. I was brand new. I was on my own. So I thought, okay, if I can find a few more people to help me, sign up a few people in my business, friends, whoever, I'm going to have some help. It becomes easier and easier, right? The more hands, the lighter the work. And my thought process was, if I can just get this boulder to the top of the hill, what's going to happen? It's going to roll down the other side, and we won't be pushing it because it's rolling away from us, out of our control, down the other side. And that was my thought process. Okay, I'm just going to go find a few people, and I did. And we started pushing, and I made enough money that I got Eric's attention. It wasn't very much. But I got his attention, and he thought, if you can do that alone, what could we do together? And that's when he engaged, and 9 months later, we'd replaced the income from all 3 of our businesses, and he's going to go from there on our story. In a nutshell, taking my eyes off where I was, putting them on where I wanted to be, focusing on the goal, and having that point of passion. My point of passion was in my war cry. Health, wealth, prosperity now. I wanted to make enough money that I never had to think about money again. It wasn't to have a bigger home. It wasn't to drive a nicer car. I wanted to drive a car, but I wanted one with an engine. It would have been really nice. And I got that. There came a day in our business that Eric came and he said, let's go down to the car dealership and you can pick out any car you want. And that was the greatest day for me. Sadly, I haven't driven that car very much. Most of you see it more often than I do. That's our build the business car. But that was my dream car. We have a Chrysler 300 that I got to go pick out the very one that I wanted with all the bells and whistles. And I had a car. And that was a really big deal for me. But it took taking my eyes off where I wanted to be, or where I was, putting them on where I wanted to be. You've all been given the tools that you need, and you're going to be given more today. The belief, the know-how, the power, the passion, the why, you have it all. But the passion and the why comes from within you. And that is the missing piece of the puzzle. Jason talked about this car that we've been given. Very beautifully put. I love that corporate is our car. You are the driver. You get to decide how fast that car goes. If you put one toe on that pedal, it's not going to get to your goal very fast. Or you can floor that pedal and get to where you want to go. Get it done. Be all in. Engage with passion. Get out of the gate fast. All the things you've been hearing talk about. You've got the next 90, 120 days before we meet again. Sorry, I don't have an exact calendar date in front of me. We have some time. We have a little window of time, and if you work hard over the next period of time, where are you going to be at on the recognition stage next time we meet? That is entirely up to you. You all have uplines who want to help you. You all have people that want your dreams for you as badly as you want them for yourself. My challenge to you is go out there and take a hold of it and get it done. We believe in you. We love you. Go get it done. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my husband. Eric is my hero. He hopefully has helped you so much. Our personal goal with our family is to take and retire 100 families over the next 18 months with LifeVantage. We love you. We want you to work. We want you to succeed. We don't want to hear any more houses getting lost or any more cars getting repossessed. We want you to have control of your lives and be able to get where you want to be and to make that difference for the people that you know. Let's get out there and spread the word. Here's my husband, Eric.
All right, I actually asked for this whiteboard to be put up here because if I don't have a whiteboard, I can't talk. So, anyways, My name's Eric Albrechts. I live out in Queen Creek, Arizona. When I first went and listened to Dr. McCord, he started talking about SOD, and I thought, well, as a landscaper, I understand that. That's called sod. And he threw up this other little thing called Nerf. I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I'm going to do good at this thing. A Nerf football. I had all this. Oh, man, this is going to be good. But, guys, I'm hopefully I can give you some hope that you can do this. I'm high school educated. When I got done with high school, I went to college, and I was always told, you go to school, you get a good education, so you can get a good job. Well, I went to college, and I had already started a business at that point. I had a window washing business, and I went to this college professor, and we're up there listening to him, and we had about 300 people in this room, and after about 2 weeks of listening to this guy, I raised my hand one day. I said, Professor, have you ever owned a business? And it got real quiet, and everybody looked at me. I can't believe you asked that. The guy said, well, no, but I've helped a lot of people. I closed my book, got up, and left. So my dad always told me, he says, you want to do something in life, you find somebody who's already done it, and you go ask them how they did it, and you do the exact same thing. So over the next little while, I started this window washing business. We grew it to a pretty large scale. We had over 3,000 clients that we dealt with. And I had an interesting cross-section of individuals that I could work with. And I started to notice, and there was a group of people that made more money than the others. But I also noticed that they also had the same education. You ever notice why one doctor makes more money than another? Or why does one engineer make more money than another? Or why does one realtor make more money than the other? I started asking these guys. And over about a 15-year time frame, I started to ask these guys the very same question. What did you do so different? And guess what? They all told me the same thing. After sitting down and talking with these guys, they said, Eric, my financial success had nothing to do with what I knew. It was who I knew and when. And guys, my dad was a forest ranger. Spent a lot of time in the outdoors, and me and my brothers fishing and hunting and that kind of stuff. And, we were always taught how to work hard. I used to work from 4 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. And because that's what I knew how to do. And when we've gone through this big mess that Tricia had talked about, I went and started another business because I told her, I said, I will never put you in that situation again so that you never have to worry about money. And so I started a lawn care business. Then I got done with that. I went, well, I need to start a landscaping business. I was passionate about getting some time, but all I did is I kept eating more up, and I never saw my family. And then Marcel gives me a call one night. And I remember this so distinctly because Trish and I were sitting in the front room, and the telephone rings, and I get up and I go over to answer the phone, and I see Marcel's name on the caller ID. And I got about 5-6 feet away from it, and I turned around and I walked right back to the couch. My wife said, well, who is it? I said, it's Marcel. She said, yeah, he's your friend. Why don't you answer the phone? I said, because every time he calls me, it's about some stupid network marketing business. I'm not interested right now. Now, Trish and I had been involved a couple of times before in network marketing, but we'd never got it to work. I had 2 of my clients to this day make millions and millions of dollars from network marketing, so I knew that it worked. But I was like, I could never get it to work for me. So Tricia, she gets up, and she says, well, I'll answer the phone. I'm like, well, go ahead. So she goes over and she answers the phone, and within 30 seconds of saying hello, I hear, well, what's the name of the company? I'm like, oh, she told you. She walks around into the front room, talks to him for about an hour, and after about an hour, she brings me the phone and says, you need to listen to what Marcel has to say. And I said, no, I don't. Yes, you do. She staked the phone, and she shoved it right in my ear. And I said, okay, Marcel, here's the deal. You want to talk business, you need to come down and go fishing with me. And until you're willing to do that, that's the deal. You got to come fishing. Well, a couple days later, 4:30 in the morning, lo and behold, my doorbell rings at 4:30. I'm thinking, hell, my employees are early this morning. I go and open the door. There's Marcel standing. He's got his 2 little boys next to him. He's like, let's go fishing. I'm like, oh. Now, if you know anything about me, I have no problem going fishing. I mean, that water bottle, I'll fish out of it. I have no problem fishing. I just didn't want to have to hear from Marcel how we were going to be bazillionaires and live in mansions and have airplanes and Ferraris and all this kind of stuff. I'd been there, done that, and I just didn't want to hear it. Well, we went fishing. We had a great time with out there that day. Well, that night, guys, he got home and he says, before I tell you about this company, he says, I want to share with you a couple of things that I've learned about why we haven't succeeded in network marketing. And he shared with me these business principles, a proper company and having a quality product and trends. And he got to one thing that changed and woke me up. And this is what he drew. Where's my eraser here? He drew this on the piece of paper there in front of me. He took this and he drew this little S curve. Y'all seen that before? Okay? He said, Eric, the reason why we haven't had any success in network marketing before, he says, you and I have always gotten involved up here. In business, a company gets started. It goes through a pioneering stage. Then they hit a little point called critical mass and momentum. And that momentum phase is where 80% of all the companies gain their business. He says, we were up here. Eric, get involved right here after everybody had heard about it. And I was like, man, the light switch clicked on. And this is what it started to mesh up with these things that these millionaires had told me. And it was like, ding, okay, these guys, this is what they were trying to tell me. And guys, all I ever wanted in my life was my turn. You know, it seemed like everybody else got their turn. Well, where's mine? I finally started asking my dad. I said, Dad, did I get born in the wrong family? What's the deal? How come I don't get my turn? It's like everybody around me was, getting this lucky break. Well, I knew this guy. I went to school with this kid that just overheard a conversation and invested some money, and now he owns all the just big old businesses, and and he bought a grocery store chain for a tax write-off. He lived 3 houses down from me. It's like all these, my friend, he happens to be driving past the farmer, and the farmer's putting up the for sale sign, and he gets the lucky break and buys it, and the next day turns around and sells it for millions. I'm like, why don't I get my turn? I kept thinking, well, maybe one day while I'm out there washing windows, that one of these guys is going to come up and offer me the CEO job and give me $1 million contract. And say, oh, Eric, he washed windows so well. And that was what I kept waiting for. It never happened. This is what, and Marcel said, Eric, man, we get a chance to get involved in the company down here. We get to be first. And I'm like, you know what? This is my chance, guys. And when I got my chance, and for the first little while, I got, it rang true that very first night. But like Tricia said, for about 6 months, even though I knew that I wanted it, I knew what it could provide for me and my family, it could free me up. For 6 months, guys, I did nothing. I was an incubator. One of those guys that just, I was getting ready to get ready, and and Tricia and Marcel would drive down every 2 weeks. And they would get down there and they'd go do meetings. And I made it a point when Marcel came into town, I would leave. I'd go fishing. But here's the thing that Marcel never did, is he never beat me up. He never said, hey, how come you weren't there? He'd say, how was fishing? Hey, did you catch any? He just loved on me. And one day it clicked. And I can't tell you what it was, but one day I think I just got mad enough. And I decided and woke up one day and said, you know what, I can do this thing. I come home. I remember I came home and I said, Tricia, give me one of those applications. And I grabbed that application and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go sign somebody up this thing. I went out that night and I got in my little Nissan truck and I started calling people. I said, you home right now? Yeah, I need to come on over. And I just hung up the phone and went over there, kind of like Tyler Daniels. And just went over there. And, I started talking to people. Well, lo and behold, somebody actually listened. And they said, you know what? Yeah. I remember one of the first guys I went to. It's a very good friend of ours. This guy's got 2 PhDs. I go over there and I knock on his door. By the way, his wife was at my house a half hour earlier hanging out with Tricia. And I come in and knock on the door, and he opens the door and he says, I already know what you're here for. He says, I'm not really interested. He says, I'll give you 15 minutes. I went in there and I started talking about these principles of success. It took me 15 minutes. And he says, you know what? Makes sense. I'll sign up. Says, all right, okay, here's what you need to do next. Tomorrow night, we're having a meeting at your house, 7 o'clock. Bring some people over there. I go over to his house the next night, and he's got all these doctors and PhDs there, and I'm washing windows deal, okay? I go over there and sit down. I got my little whiteboard, and I got notes, and I would read the notes, and I'd just throw them down on the floor, and I'd read them, and I'd draw a little bit, and they all signed up, okay? Guys, it started to work. And we thought we were on top of the world, and we were, and life was looking pretty good. And as a matter of fact, during that time frame, I met Tyler. Tyler's become one of my very best friends. I don't know, we just hit it off. And as a matter of fact, after a couple of years, I convinced him to move down to Arizona in the middle of the summer from Richfield, Utah. That's how good a friend Tyler is. And so we were going to build these brand new big old homes. And we're out there on the golf course, this big, beautiful community, and life is looking great. 6 bedroom, 5,000 square foot, and just all the amenities you could have. And Tyler moved into his, and mine wasn't quite completed yet. And we got asked involved in this other opportunity, and we actually walked away from the incomes that we were making from that first company. And we thought, man, if we could position ourselves in this other deal, we could really excel. And at that same time, we're building this house, And all of a sudden, we had sold our house that we had first lived in, and man, our house will only be completed here in about 3 weeks. And so a good friend of ours said, you know what? She says, rather than go and rent an apartment for a few days, she says, why don't you just come live in the back bedroom of our house? And I'm like, okay, that works out. Well, as we got closer to the completion of this home, and this was a little over a year and a half ago, the mortgage industry turned upside down. And all of a sudden, every day, my mortgage lender would call me and he said, we had a mortgage, but now you don't. And then we'd call back, okay, got another one. Nope, we don't. We'd sometimes go through 5 and 6 lenders a day because that's how many people were going out of business. And we had bought, with this home, we were settled in on. My kids, we'd been all summer going over there to build this thing, and life was looking good. And, and this little temporary stay at this neighbor's home all of a sudden started to drag on. And as we got near to the completion of our home, I realized that, we're not going to be able to move into this house. And just because of the way things were. And all of a sudden, I literally found myself going from the peak all down to the lowest low I've ever had in my life. Because all of a sudden, I was homeless. I didn't have the house that we'd built and lived in for 10 years. I didn't have this house that we'd had planned on. I was literally living in the back bedroom of this lady's home in our neighborhood with my wife and my 4 kids. And I didn't have any more money coming in. All of our money was invested in on this home and different things, and our investments, everything was gone. It was just depleting before me. And I remember waking up, and it was the December 9th, this lady and their husband come in and said, we got family coming in for the holidays, and they needed the back bedroom. And, and I was kind of hoping we could just kind of figure out and, game plan. We were waiting for our checks to come in from this opportunity that we'd started with. And we'd basically, all of a sudden I was like, December 10th, my birthday. I remember that day. I woke up. I have nowhere to go. I've been asked to leave the only place that I have. Sold my house. Nothing. I have no money, guys. And I'm like, oh man, what do I do? I remember driving around the neighborhoods all day long, trying to find a place that somebody would rent to me and my family, because I didn't have the first month's rent, the last month's rent. And I was frustrated. It was embarrassing. Okay? But I remember I finally got a hold of our realtor, and she said, hey, Eric, I found something. She says, I have this home that we've been renting, and the renters left. And she says, I know your circumstance, your situation. I know your business is about to start paying you, and you're just ahead of the game here. She said, you and your family can live there, and you don't have to pay me a first month's and last month's. If you'll just pay the rent, you can live there. So I was an answer to a prayer. So I drive out to this place. I was way out on the edge of town, and I pull in this neighborhood. As I'm coming down the road, I see 2 trucks with 2 trailers, and they're fully loaded with garbage. And I'm thinking, okay, and I'm looking for the address, and all of a sudden I realize that the house that they're in front of is the house that I am going to look at. My heart starts to sink a little. And then I get out of my car, and I walk past. I said, is this the right address? I said, yes. And she says, you don't want to go in there. I said, well, I'm looking at actually renting the place, and I'd like to just kind of get a visual of what we've got. And he says, well, you don't really want to go in there. And I said, yeah, I will. I opened this door, and garbage. They had, just to give you an perspective, it was about a 2,000 square foot home. They had 22 people living in this house with 5 dogs. Garbage, diapers, food, feces, everything. This deep. Millions of cockroaches line the walls and the ceilings and the floors. My dream house was about 2 miles from here. My kids were going to be going to the same school that they would have been in if we'd have built that dream home. I took some pictures on my cell phone as I walked through this place. I was just, are you kidding me? It just seemed like just a little bit ago, everything was perfect. I took some pictures of this place, and I was so ashamed that before I got home, I erased them off my phone because I didn't want my kids to ever see what we were moving into. Home told Trish, I said, well, we got a spot. It's going to take a little work. she's a great housekeeper. We went out there and we killed the cockroaches, and at least some of them. Those things will live through a nuclear holocaust, I'll tell you that much. I remember laying on the couch and bugs roll across you. Like, man. But that's where we started. We had all of our stuff in storage, and I told my kids, you can bring one box of clothes, and we set up shop. And I sat my little family down. Now it's about Christmas time. I said, I'm so sorry to put you in this situation. I said, you will never live like this again, because I'll go to work. And we kept working. We kept talking to people. We kept showing the presentation and telling them. And we had $5 for Christmas that year. The year before, we had run a charity to feed thousands of people, and here this year, we were the charity. And it was tough. And I just knew that everything, if you just keep working and keep at it and don't quit. I'd hear people all the time that give me excuses, and I want to punch them in the mouth. I remember leaving for a road trip one day, and I went back to washing windows, and I called up a few of my clients and said, I'm in a situation. I need to wash a few windows. Would you let me do it? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Come back. And so I'd wash a few windows. I'd do that at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd get done with that, and I'd get in my car, and I'd go do meetings. And I remember one day I'd done the windows at a house in the morning, and I had to go do a meeting in California. And as I got in the car, the gas tank was half full, and I called Trish, and I said, I need to go to California today. There's some people out there that want to hear about this thing. And she says, well, we don't have any money yet. I said, well, that check I gave you, when will deposit in cash? And she says, hopefully this afternoon. I said, well, I'm going. I told them I'd be there at 7 o'clock, and I'll be there. So I left. I get clear out to out there by east side of California, Palm Springs, 115 degrees, and my car runs out of gas, and I'm now coasting it down the hill. And I remember I coasted it into a gas station, and I called Trish. I said, is that money there yet? She said, I don't know. Let me make a few phone calls. She calls me back, and she says, okay, it's available. So I put my card in, filled up the car, went down, did the meeting. Had to do another one the next day, so I didn't have money, guys, to go live in a hotel and do all that kind of stuff. I literally lived in the back of my trunk. I would fold down the back seat, and that's where I stayed. And Blue talked about shower at the beach. Yeah, I showered at the beach. I went down there. Everybody's getting done swimming. I'm down there showering, shampooing, and shaving, and they're, looking at me. And I had to go do a meeting, but I was willing to do whatever it took because I didn't want my family ever to have to be in that situation again. Well, we kept working at it. And we just kept going. And every day, it was, I didn't have all the greatest skill sets in the world, but I knew how to work. I remember looking at Blue, and we were talking. It's like, man, we've seen all these other people who are successful in this industry. I said, you and I and Colt, we know how to work. I said, well, when everybody else is sleeping, we'll be working. When they're playing, we'll be working. I said, I'll be the first one there and the last one to leave every single time. And that was my motto. It's like, you cannot outwork me. Because I had a reason why I was going to do this thing. And we kept working. And I remember we saw all of a sudden these checks started coming in. At the 1-year mark of this opportunity, things were, a lot better. But I'd worked so hard that I ended up in the hospital. I actually worked to exhaustion, and I ruptured my intestine. I remember sitting there at the house and I said, Tricia, boy, I don't feel real well. She says, well, she says, we probably ought to take you to the hospital. I said, no. I said, I'll be okay. It's just a little, cramps. And she calls a few doctors and says, no, you need to get him down there. I go down there and we find out I'm less than about 12 hours from being a dead man. And so they took me all up and got me all taken care of. And 6 days later, I wake up in ICU and I have no idea what had really gone on. And she had this little envelope. She says, I thought this might help you feel better. It was a check from that company. And that check was more in a month than what I used to make in an entire year. And she said, you just take whatever time you need to get better. And I did. I went home, turned off my cell phone, threw it away. Nobody could come to my house because she wouldn't let them. The only person that my wife would let come to my house, she wouldn't even let Tyler. She let Kirby one night come over, and this will tell you the type of man Kirby is. About 12:30 in the morning, he shows up at my house after getting done doing a meeting, says, I want to talk with you to make sure you guys are all right. I remember Ryan was there, and we just sat there and we talked. Is there anything we can do for you? You know, great men to be around. Well, for the next 90 days, guys, I didn't do anything, but because we'd gone out and gone to work, and we'd set up, and we'd done things that you're learning here today, 90 days later, I was still in the recuperation mode. Our group had grown by over 6,000 people. And people were leaders, were breaking leaders by breaking leaders. And it was a nice thought to lay there as a dad and go, okay, if something did happen, my wife wouldn't have to go farm the kids out to daycare. Well, at about that same time, we were now ready to move out of this house. I figured we'd make enough money now we can go get a new place, and we did. We went down, we got this nice, beautiful place sitting on the golf course, 17th green, 18th fairway, overlooking the mountains. And we took our kids down. It's got a beautiful swimming pool. Well, when we got ready to leave that house, I told my wife, I said, let's do something that somebody's done for us in the past. I said, let's tell everybody at our church that they can come over to our house and anything they want, they can have. And I put a price tag of $1 on this item and $2 on this one. And you know, because people had given us a chance. You know, and this stuff was still functional. Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest stuff, but it worked. And we had them come over. And if somebody couldn't really afford that $1, I'd just say, take it. Or really, yeah, just take it. You know, it was the easiest move ever. So we had all of our personal stuff in a box. I mean, we were packed up and moved out now, and we couldn't get out of there fast enough. And we had a lot of our guys from our team come do that. When we got to the new house, I took my kids down and said, okay, now we're going to do it right. You guys have been patient. You guys have put up with everything that I've done. And we took them down to the furniture store. And I said, go get it. I said, you get a bed, you get a dresser, you get a nightstand, lamps, whatever you want. Just decorate your room. Now, me and Mama, we get a double check everything. But I just turned them loose. And I told Trish, I said, just go get anything you want. And for the next couple of weeks, I mean, things were just being delivered to our house, you know, and all this new furniture and dining room sets and, you know, pool table. And Tricia had actually had to give up her piano during that whole process of all that and had a nice brand new grand piano delivered. And since she never got to drive the car that she picked out the first time around, we went down and had a brand new Suburban delivered for her. And guys, it was awesome. People wonder, is this thing worth it? Well, those are still little monetary things. Okay, we got out of that hole that we were in. Let me tell you a few of the magic moments why you really do this. You know, at the end of the day, this is important. Okay? And all I ever wanted was my turn. I just wanted to be able to I wanted that sometime in my life. And I'm telling you, if you can participate in this little S-curve, it will change your life forever. You all have a chance to do something big, and it's up to you to make the decision to do it. I can't force you to do it. Okay, all I want was my turn. Well, this is your turn. Okay, I've got to go through this. And I'm telling you, it'll blow your mind. Okay, but this is what you have to figure out first. Why? People are like, well, I want a new car, I want a new house. No, you won't do what is necessary in this business for a new house or a new car or a new boat. I tell people, your why has to be like George Washington. Okay, when George Washington was crossing the Potomac River in the middle of the winter, it was icy and it was cold and it was snowing and they had rags on their feet. They weren't going to do that for a new log cabin or a musket. It was bigger than that. And when you figure that out, this business will be easy and it'll be fun. Okay? Because when I go sit down and talk to somebody, I'm not there to sign them up. I'm there to get my why. I don't really care if they get in. Okay? Well, I don't want to. Fine. Good. Next. Okay? This is why I'm after. You'll do the same. When you figure that out, that'll be your passion. And it'll drive you to do the things that are necessary in this business. Okay? Magic moments. Wrote down a few of them over we've had to go through. Hey, being a full-time dad's awesome. Guys, I work from 4 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. I never saw my family. That's all I ever wanted. My why was I wanted personal freedom. That was it. I wrote, I am free on everything in my house. Okay? So when we finally got free, some of the magic moments. We had a chance just recently to take my little family over to Disneyland. My little 4-year-old, little blonde hair, blue eyes, little Becca. We had a chance to take her down there, and I mean, at that age, it's magical. And as we walk into Disneyland that day, guess who's coming down the main street with a big old marching band? Mickey Mouse. And she thought I'd planned all this. Mickey comes over and gives her a big kiss. Welcome to Disneyland. Okay? And we went and had fun, and me and Tyler, we had some fun, and we had our kids there, and at the end of the day, just as we're walking out, here comes the band again, and guess who's leading it? Minnie Mouse. Becca's like, man, this is awesome. Minnie comes over and gives my little Becca a kiss. Waking up in the morning with her, and she comes in with her little stuffed seal and her special pillow and her purple blanket, and she's, Dad, let's watch Mickey Mouse's Clubhouse while all the other dads are going to work. How about spending time with your 14-year-old daughter? Just say, hey, what are you doing today? Let's go shopping. Let's go look at horses. She likes horses, so we just went and did that. Okay? Taking my little 11-year-old girl, who's just as fun as can be. She's been practicing for this pass punt kick thing in the NFL, and she's 70 pounds soaking wet, but she beat every boy in all of the Phoenix area. She can pass and throw better than anybody. To be able to go and see that, okay? To be able to go down and with my little boy, I enjoy hunting. That's a passion I like. I like to get out and do that. Because I believe that when you spend quality time and quantity time with your kids, that's what makes a difference. So I had a chance recently to take my little boy, and we're out in this hunting blind, and he's got this little bow. We went down, we hooked him up all right, man. I told Trish, we're going to Bass Pro Shop, and he's getting it all to the nines. And he's like, really, Dad? And I'm like, yep. I said, we're getting you all set up. So we go up there, we get them all taken care of. And we're sitting in this deer blind. It was past shooting hours, and I just said, let's see if anything comes in. And we hear this deer coming into the water hole that we're there, and he leans over to me, and he's only 8 years old. He says, Dad, he says, I'm not scared, but I'm shaking. I said, that's buck fever. Welcome to the club. To be able to spend those precious moments with your family. When it was my wife and I's anniversary, just to, we didn't have to get up to go anywhere. Okay? My family, morning starts, McDonald's is done serving breakfast. I figure that's a good time to get up. Me and my wife, that's when I get up and we get rolling. We went and spent lunch, and we had shopping, and we spent the time with each other. Is that just her and I time? Those are the magic moments. Guys, that's why you do this thing. That's at least why I'd build it. Because that was my why. I just wanted the freedom to do what I wanted, when I wanted, with the ones that I loved. And when you figure that out, you won't have to ask, well, what do I got to say? Okay? Because again, this right here is the passion behind this thing. I'm so grateful that my wife went over and answered that phone. I'm grateful for Tyler and Jason and the rest of this corporate staff and the other people I've met through this, and the people in our organization, the leaders. Okay? It's your business. Take responsibility for it. Quit waiting for the upline or the cross line or the corporate to do something for you. If you want to get your why, it's going to be up to you, and you need to go take care of it. I'm so grateful for this. And I know that if you'll just get to work, that's how you'll get this thing done. And quit worrying about what other people are thinking about you. First off, they ain't thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. Okay? Just go to work. Yeah, people think, I don't care what people think. Okay? Because, I get to spend the time with the ones I love. People ask me, what do you do for a living? I said, network marketing. I believe that when we take the time, we start being proud of that, we'll change the perception of this industry. And you'll start to get the goals and the dreams that you're after. Thanks for letting us come and speak to you today. Go to work.